Okay, so welcome back to HPM 641. We're in week 13 B now. So this week we're talking about this classical organization theory, especially again I want to use this as a link between 641 and 650. So coming back to this classical organization theory, we can see that in 19th, 20th century, at that time, Industrial Revolution, theories, researchers, they really want to find a way to run efficient organizations to recover the economy, to kind of like increase economic well-being for people. So you can see that when we talk about this these three major theories, they are like different versions of making organization efficient, okay, or rational, or whatever terms that they use it. The idea is to make things impersonal, to make things function in a very efficient way. Now, this second theories that we want to talk about, Henry Fayol. He developed a set of rules for managers to follow to be successful. So for him, he thinks that managers is the key to run organizations. So they really need very good rules in order to run the organizations. Okay, so these rules, consist of activities of management, principles of management, and also elements of management. Now, he argued that all activities within organization could be divided into six main groups: the technical part, commercial part, financial part, security, accounting, and managerial. Okay, and you can look at your textbook, to find out the details. But I think the tables in your textbook, they're very useful. Okay, he has this kind of relatively famous 14 major principles of management. I'm not going to talk about each of this in detail, but I would just mention the principle. So division of work, basically division of labor, specialization, authority and responsibility. People know their responsibility and how much authority they have. People should be disciplined because this is the way that people can work efficiently. Unity of command, we should know the hierarchical structure well so that we have a unity of command. Unity of direction, subordination of individual interest to general interest for the organization. Okay, remuneration of personnel should be fair, equitable, and you should reward well-directed effort. Right. We should have centralized commands. Centralization is important. Scalar chain, okay, the line of authority from top management to the lowest ranks represent the scalar chain, okay, which means that communication should occur up and down the scalar chain of authority. However, if following the chain creates delays, cross communications can be allowed if agreed to by all parties, and superiors are kept informed. Okay, so this is a little bit special principle, right? Order, which means to avoid loss of material, there should be a place of everything and everything in its place, okay? In addition, the prescribed place should be one that facilitates the carrying out of necessary activities and so on and so forth, okay? Finally, equity. Employees should be treated with kindness and justice, which together equal equity. Stability of tenure of personnel, employees, and managers alike need time to settle into the jobs before they can achieve maximum performance. Initiative is creating a plan and executing it, as well as having the freedom to do these things. Esprit de corps, okay, this is essentially a principle of unity. Harmony should be fostered and conflict minimized, okay? Now, I encourage to really look at these principles in detail, but again, the idea at that time, failed time, okay, 19th century, 20th century, is to make these things very clear, okay? People really know what they're supposed to do, okay? Now that most of these principles are kind of known to us, okay, if not explicitly, we kind of know this is the right thing to do, but at that time, people think that we should really make these things very clear so people know what they're expected to do. And so these are kind of like the kind of contributions of fails. Now we have one more slide before we talk about the final theories. So what is the elements of management? Okay, so Fayol saw managers' responsibilities as planning, organizing, commanding, coordinating, and controlling. Okay, so we have these 14 principles, and then the responsibility is to do all these 5 things here, to kind of like follow the based on the principles. Okay. Now, in addition to fail, okay, we have one other theorist, which is Frederick Taylor. Okay, Taylor is also another very important theorist that contributes to the principles of management. It's really like the modern principles of management. Really, it's kind of made up by these 3 guys, right? So for him, he emphasized this scientific management, this idea about using science as kind of like the highest authority, to manage an organization, okay? And even health organization, hospitals, and many, as far as I know, even, commercial health organizations, pharmaceutical companies, and so on, they kind of follow, one way or another, the scientific principle or the scientific management method, right? So he wants to really develop such a science. With such a science, he can determine how the work can best be performed. And he would even go as far as to do experiments, like a lab experiment, to find out what is the most efficient way to do work. For that, he actually conducted this kind of famous or infamous motion and time studies, right? He really would time people and try to understand, for assembly line workers, what is the best way to motivate employees? How can people move fastest, the most efficient way? There's the various kind of versions about that. He would even adjust the lighting, and see whether lighting, whether more illuminated area or a darker area will affect the way that people work, right? So there's like a lot of this kind of I don't know, impersonal, inhumane a little bit, right? Even type of experiment to try to find out what is the best working conditions for people, okay? And he would use it, okay, to make sure that the organization will run smoothly, will run efficiently. And of course, in order to understand this, to do the analysis, he will apply mathematical formulas. He will do statistical analysis almost, right? And to find out, to compare, different work conditions, and to compare, how people can work the most efficiently, under different conditions. Now, he would scientifically select the best individual for the job, train that person to be able to perform the job better and better, and finally pay higher wages than ever before to reward the increased productivity, right? Kind of, again, seeing individual as components of the bigger organizational machine, right? If you are good at something, I would just, keep training you to make you even better, right? And if everybody can be selected to do the best that he or she can, then we will train the person, and make the person a part of like a very efficient organization based on this scientific principles. He will cooperate with the workers to ensure that the work is done in a prescribed manner. Make knowledge of the job. So this is a principle, right? So if you know what works best, right? What is the efficient way? Write it down, document it. The work procedures, kind of like Taylor a bit, right? And maybe Max Weber as well, to kind of make documentation, make sure that people know, right? What is the best routine, okay? Codify your experience. Make sure people know the code, okay? The work codes, okay? And the workers selected come together, okay? Because they are the best, okay? And so this will include providing for increased earnings for those who follow the prescribed methods most closely, okay? So if you're a good worker, if you follow the guidelines and the rules, you should be rewarded. Divide the work so that activities such as planning, organizing, and controlling are the responsibility of management. So even the managers, is a profession, right? The managers or the management methods should be scientific, okay? The worker in contrast has the responsibility for doing things, right? This division is predicated on the assumption that most workers do not have the capability to create the science of their work, right? Many people, they just follow. They don't know how to organize things. They don't know how to coordinate. They just do work. Okay, they just do like simple work, and so we, from the perspective of Taylor, again, some people are good at managing, some people are good at working, and they should be coordinated. Make the organizations efficient. Now, this is so much about the kind of rational, classical way of organizing, a collection of people, right? An organizational entity, right? And as I told you, even nowadays, health organizations, hospitals, clinics, other health system, they use the scientific management by Taylor, division of labor, some principles by Fayol, some ideas from Weber. They kind of like they mix it and a bit, and they use it. They want to make things efficient, right? So you will see a lot of this. Things that happen that really still make a really great impact about how people manage organization nowadays. Okay, so they're already making great significant contributions. Now, the truth is that as we know about organizations, as we have worked in organizations, we know that sometimes things cannot be so formalized, or even if we formalize things, things do not necessarily go as expected, right? So later on, we have other theories that propose other ways of organizing and an organization. We have another, kind of perspective called the organic perspective, where we kind of respect people's individuality, respect people's way of doing things on their own way, right? We talk about that, probably in the next semester when we go to HPM 650. Now, but one other twist, right, which does not deviate as much as the organic perspective from the classical perspective, is to recognize the external environment, right? So when we talk about how an organization needs to learn over time, the organization has to adjust, right? It has to adjust to the external environment because the organization faces different environmental pressures, different environmental conditions, right? So the organization needs to keep updating its own work routines, maybe, even replaces its workers, even its management in response to these environmental pressures, right? So we have this idea about learning organization. Now, before we talk, we're going to talk more about that. If not this semester, we'll talk more about that in 650. But one other kind of important perspective is to recognize the external environment, or the influence of external environment. So we have this open systems theory, right? This open system theory recognize that organization is embedded in an environment, right? So we have this input and output, and this is the input, transform into output of an organization, and the organization is embedded in the larger environment. So this is what we call the open system theory, right? That kind of provides another major input about the organization.